We don't always end up where we planned. Sometimes it takes a couple false starts, a couple failures, even laughing at yourself when you fall on the ground to do something that ends up changing your life. That's what today's conversation is honestly all about. Zack Taylor's story isn't the typical path, in all honesty, to becoming a professional pickleball player. He spent years performing over in LA, small roles, modeling gigs, but even competing on American Idol. I mean, he made it to the top 48, for goodness sake. But he's always really chasing that next opportunity, it seemed. And he learned to adapt, though, to stand out, to survive in business that rewards resilience more than anything else. Just like a true skill that he has seemed to develop. But then the world shut down, the pandemic forced him home back to Missouri, and out of pure boredom, he picked up a pickleball paddle, like so many of us, and he thought it was a joke, also like so many of us. But within 2 years, he wasn't just playing, he didn't just fall in love with the sport. He was competing full-time on the Pro Tour, and is now a fully sponsored YOLO athlete. Today, he's traveling the country as both a player and a coach, working with new players at every level, helping grow the sport, and also building a career and a personal brand in something he never planned for, but now can't imagine living without. If there's anything from the conversation that I got away, it was that he cannot live without pickleball. He just loves it so much. So this isn't just about pickleball. It's about really reinventing yourself, finding purpose in unexpected places, and learning to lean into things that scare you or surprise you the most. So if you've ever felt lost, stuck, or like you had to change the plan entirely, this one is absolutely for you. I thank Zack in this conversation so heavily for just being so raw, so real, so relatable, so genuine and authentic, in so many topics that we touch that are not easy to talk about. So I hope from this conversation you can connect with him just that deeper. So when you meet him at PickleCon in Kansas City, come August 7th to the 10th, you'll already feel like you know a piece of him. Enjoy the conversation with Zack. I know I surely did. Oh, stop that. Oh. Okay, so we're here with Zack Taylor, and we usually start off our introductions pretty hot, but also fun.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, so you ready for that?
Sure. Bring it
The
on.
first, the first question is, what is the best mistake you have ever made?
I would say most of my life choices that changed the trajectory of what I was doing in life ended up being the best mistake I could have made. And I was at a dead end job after college, auditioned for American Idol. That was risky, ended up being what made me move to California. And then during COVID, I found pickleball, and that was risky, kind of changing career paths halfway through. And that ended up being a whole new journey as well. So take the risk because, at least for me, it's always ended up working out.
So I'm so glad that you kind of dove right into that quickly because it's it's a rarity for a lot of people, especially in an interview like this, to be willing to dive that deeply right off the rip. And something that we also allude to on these podcasts is failures. Do you have a failure or the biggest failure in mind that you feel like you learned the most from out of some of the things that you just discussed?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know, man. That's wow. That's a really tough question. You are coming in hot. Um, I would say I learned the most from failing, even though it is super scary to do so. I mean, I grew up in Missouri, so I'm actually a Kansas City native. And a lot of people from where I'm from don't take risks or are afraid to fail just in general. And I think as a young kid, I was always creative and did sports and academics and the arts. And it was okay to fail in our family because I feel like our parents supported whatever we did. I don't know if
Mm,
this question is getting off topic, but
no, you're doing great.
um, I would say biggest failure, I would say. Probably like, oh, this is gonna get deep. The relationship with my dad is probably something that I wish I could go back in time and kind of change and tweak, although he is a very difficult person to deal with. I think, family to me is super important, and it's really all we have besides a great group of friends. And
Mm.
keeping those people super close to you, I think throughout this short time we're here kind of is very important. And not that I've failed in that regard, I've just kind of put a relationship on the back burner a bit just because I have other things going on and it's a lot to dive into. But I would say like that would be probably the thing that I wish I could change. But as far as failing goes, go ahead and fail because it's going to teach you so much about yourself. And I think eventually you realize that failing is not that scary because when your back's up against the wall, I feel like you will figure it out. And
Mm.
I know for myself, when I moved to Los Angeles, I woke up the next day after driving out and I was like, "Oh my God, like what am I gonna do?" Like I didn't even have a bed. I was sleeping on a sleeping bag on the floor when I first moved here. And I feel like not that that's failure, but when your back's up against the wall and you really have to start making stuff happen, I think
Mm.
that kind of gets the ball rolling and helps you be super successful like later in life.
When you, if I read this correctly too, when during COVID, after you moved out to LA, you were kind of forced to move back home during that period, right?
Yeah, I actually was. I was living in Los Angeles. I was acting and modeling mostly full time, and
Okay.
then the pandemic kind of hit, and everyone was like, "What the hell is going to go on?" Like, LA was like very like we're shutting everything down, you know.
Yeah.
And my mom watches too much news, so she was like, "I need both my kids back home in the nest," and I was like, "Okay." Like, I booked a one-way flight. And I think there was like 8 people on my flight. It was pretty scary times because like you watch the news and that's all you really have to go off of. Um,
Yeah.
and I went back home thinking it was gonna be like 2 weeks, and then I was like, oh my gosh, it's been like 3 months, and then winter was coming, and they were like, it's gonna get worse. And I had my own place in Los Angeles at that time. That was the first time I ever lived on my own, and I kept paying rent because that's what I was raised to do, never miss a payment, you know. So I was paying rent to my apartment in Studio City for like 6 months, and then I was like, I can't continue to do this. I'm out of a job, so I ended up having to like fly back out there and move all my stuff into storage, and then drive my car that was still in the parking garage all the way
Oh
back to
my.
Missouri. And not that any of us knew COVID was going to last that long, but it ended up being like 18 to 22 months of me living at home, and that's kind of when this whole pickleball thing started.
So getting into how predominantly this is a perfect transition because
Okay.
now pickleball is all encompassing in your life, right?
Yeah, it's
Uh,
taken over.
you you said you once joked that you thought it was a silly sport, a stupid sport,
I
and
did.
only for the elderly, the aged population, the
Well, that's
wise
it. Yeah.
population.
Yeah.
So how it's got to be funny for you to look back now, laugh, giggle, and be like, how crazy has my perspective shifted from then until now, and now it's your entire life.
It is so crazy. I mean, I grew up as a very high level tennis player, and I didn't
Okay.
even know what pickleball was, not even in the junior tennis. Like, that wasn't a sport that anybody knew about. And in a little bit of my defense, okay, it was a generally older person sport back in the 70s and 80s, like when it was founded. So I'm not totally wrong, but I am surprised at how quickly the sport has changed, even in the short
Hmm.
time that I've been a professional athlete in it. But yeah, I was just a high level tennis player, and I was like, well, that's a real sport. And
Yeah.
then, bored one day during COVID, my neighbors down the street were like, "Hey, we're gonna go play pickleball. Do you want to come join us?" And they're all professional soccer players. The mom, the dad, and the three brothers
Okay.
have played for Sporting KC. A couple of them are in Iceland now. And so they're super athletic family. So I always tried to hang out with them when I was younger. And we go
Yeah.
out and we play, and I'm just playing like I know how to play tennis. I was playing singles. And of course, this older lady came up to me at the local courts. She saw me play, and she was like, "Would you want to coach?" And I was like, "I'm so sorry. I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, it's day one. It's day one. I've been here for 15 minutes. I don't even know how to score. I don't know the rules. And she said, well, I can tell you have the mechanics and the technique for the sport, and I would like you to come to a clinic that I'm running in like 2 days. There's like 32 players there. And in my defense, I was the only one in my 20s. I think the rest of them were like 50 plus, which totally great. Love them. They make my life fun, especially as a coach these days. And I went to the clinic and she just threw me in. She's like, okay, go. She's like, just go help them out because I know you know what you're doing. And in my head, I'm like, sometimes my motto is just fake it till you make it and just pretend like you know what you're doing, you know? Especially that comes from like my acting modeling career of like, can you ride a horse? Yes, I can ride a horse. And then you get on set and you can't ride a horse. You just have to like kind of fake it and lie a little bit to get to where you need to be
Oh, that's
sometimes.
awesome.
Um, yeah, and she threw me in, and I think everything that I've ever known as a kid came back to me because my mom was my little league coach growing up.
Yeah.
So she taught me every sport that I knew. And I think in that moment, it just kind of like everything that she had taught me over all those years of different sports kind of like that showed up at once. And so I just started helping them with technique and mechanics. And then, kind of snowballed into me running like women's leagues in the mornings at like the ass crack of dawn at like 7 a.m. During COVID when I don't get up that early. And then it turned into like me teaching lessons for them. And then it was like, she was like, you're gonna turn pro. And I was like, what? Like, there's a pro league? Like, what the heck's going on? And she's like, before you turn pro, I just want to like play a tournament with you. So we entered like this 4.0 mixed tournament down in like southern
Okay.
Missouri on like a hardwood floor. That's where I started when the pickleball courts were on a hardwood floor, like a volleyball court,
Awesome.
like a basketball court. Um, and we played a tournament there, and everyone started coming up to me and be like, you should not be in the 4.0, blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, okay.
Sandbagger.
And yeah, and they were like, this kid's gonna go pro, whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, haha. And I don't know, something about the community of pickleball keeps you going.
Mm.
And like, yes, at first I think it was kind of a silly sport, like a wiffle ball with a miniature court, yeah. And then the people that you meet, and I don't know what it is, maybe the sound of you hitting the ball or how the ball comes off the paddle face. Something about that is addictive. And I kind of got hooked. Like it just kind of snowballed into me teaching lessons, and I started traveling all throughout
Mm.
COVID to wherever I could drive my car because nobody could fly. And I just started winning 5-0 after 5-0 after 5-0. And then when it was time to move back to California, I was like, okay, well, we'll give this pro thing a shot. And here we are.
Wow.
It's so
I
weird. It's so
mean,
crazy. I mean, like I said at the beginning of this interview, the risks that you take in your life or where you find yourself is never where you thought you would be. And
yeah.
like I have a business degree in finance and in entrepreneurship, and here I am playing professional sport in my early 30s, and I'm having the best time of my life. Like there's no other job that beats this. Even on the days where I'm like, oh, I don't want to get up and coach for 5 hours and then go train. It's like the other option is sitting at a desk, getting fat and losing my hairline. Like I'm not doing that. You know, that's what my friends do. I don't do that.
I could not. I literally could not agree more and resonate with that more. It's just so funny how like something you initially write off ends up being like this next massive chapter in your life. So, like
Yeah,
with that being said, let's talk about how it's kind of developed more into your
sure.
career, like
Yeah.
beyond the player a little bit, because I can tell that you've definitely taken that entrepreneurship degree and have used it to really leverage and build your own personal brand. So the reason that I'm asking you that is because how have you gone about it? How have you balanced this piece of authenticity, genuity, and then building a brand at the same time?
It's funny that you asked me that because I didn't even like some things are so far in the future that you don't even know it's going to hit you until now. And like me
Mm.
having an entrepreneurship degree, thought I was going to own an exotic car dealership. That was my dream. Like back in
Okay,
college, that was like my senior business plan. I was going to open a
I kind of
like a
love that.
luxury auto dealership in Missouri. Um, and then fast forward, I was like kind of lost for a little bit. I was doing singing and acting and modeling, and And then now it's like the entrepreneurship degree is coming back, and I'm realizing that I am the product, I am the brand, um, on and off the court.
Mm,
And I think I'm just trying to be authentically myself. I've learned throughout my life that the things that make you different are the things that make you stand out.
mm,
And as much as I hated my red hair and green eyes as a kid because I used to get made fun of a lot, it's now one of the traits that makes me stand out from the rest of the crowd in terms of pickleball and other things in life. Me being a part of the LGBTQ community also is something that helps me stand out, and I'm super proud and not shy or scared about telling people that that's one of the reasons why I'm different.
mm,
So as far as like branding goes, I really try to keep a balance. I don't want to be 1000% pickleball all day long, and all you see on my socials is points and promotions and pictures of me playing pickleball. Like, I have other things that I love to do and helps make me more well-rounded. Like, I am a pretty funny person to my friends. It doesn't translate as much on social just because I have this fear of like filming myself, but um, I know it's like a really weird fear. Uh, but I also like to throw in, stuff that I'm doing off the court, modeling gigs that I get, or time with family or vacations and that kind of stuff. Because
mm,
that's really one, what I like to show, and two, what is actually my life is like. So I know social media is kind of like the best snippets of your life, and that's true. But some of the best snippets of my life don't involve pickleball. And it's kind of hard too, because as far as career goes, I feel like some brands only want to see your pickleball, and then other brands only want to see your modeling. And so it's kind of it's been an interesting kind of way to navigate the differentiation in posting, and kind of making sure that I'm not just putting all my
mm.
eggs in one basket. Because who knows? Tomorrow I could get injured and I don't have pickleball anymore. So who am I if I don't have pickleball? Well, before I
Mm,
had acting and modeling and all that stuff, and I actually was watching one of the podcasts with Jack Monroe, who's on the APP with me, and he
mm,
was like, "Who am I if I'm not a player?" And he's like, "Well, content is where I kind of have built a brand for myself." So I'm starting to kind of turn the wheels of like, what does that look like for me moving forward? Because I think the content game is kind of the life after the professional career, to stay relevant and to continue to have a presence on your people's phones.
mm.
Um, and I think that's kind of my next chapter, is I'm starting to kind of turn the page of like, what do I want my content to look like, and how do I want my audience to react to the content. So as much as I love both sides of my life, the modeling and the pickleball, and right now it's kind of like a mixture of both. So if you follow me on pickleball, you're gonna get some racy little photos, and if you follow me for the racy photos, you're gonna get some pickleball. So that's how we roll over here.
Let me ask you, what does the content driven future look like for Zack Taylor? Like what do you want your personal brand to be? Do you have a vision for that, or are you kind of letting it come to you as you mold it through this chapter of yours?
Yeah, I think the professional side at performing at the highest level does eventually have a shelf life, and I am aware of that. I'm not sure how much longer I have. I know I'm super healthy, and uh, I can compete with people that are 11 years younger than me, which is what happened last week for in a singles match, because they're all much younger now. But I still feel like I'm at the peak of my game athletic wise. Um, but I think content for me, a lot of people love my coaching. I think that's just something that's come naturally to me, and something that people kind of gravitate towards. I used to run kids clinics for a nonprofit last year, and did those all throughout the country, and that was super rewarding to me and fulfilling to me. And I've done bigger clinics for adults all across the country. And this year I'm running the Yola Pickleball Celebration in Orlando for 120 players. So I think the universe is kind of speaking to me a little bit, in the sense that like, hey, I am a great coach, which is something that can continue the career after life on tour. Um, but I also don't want to be like that hamster in the wheel, just teaching private lessons and becoming pickleball coach that looks like a leather bag in about 15 years because I've just been out in the sun for too long. So I think, some type of like online, some
Oh
type of
shit.
you've seen them all.
Yeah, yeah, I know what
Some
you're
type
talking
of
about.
like
I do.
online platform where more people can reach me. Um,
Mm,
as far as like and also in addition to like running bigger events, um, I'm trying to get into more of like the corporate kind of events and social aspects of that kind of thing, to where it's not just pickleball, but it's more of like a happy hour with pickleball or that those kind of things. Bigger events, I kind of see myself doing. And I think, with the content game for me personally, I'm not great at like, I know it looks great and I know what I want and I don't know what my brand looks like visually. It's hard for
yeah.
me to create that by myself. I need like help doing that. So one of my goals in the next like 3 to 6 months is to find someone that aligns with me in the editing side of things, so we can kind of build it together and I can
Mm,
tell them exactly what I want and they can make it happen. Because I know I'm good in front of the camera and with people, but I don't know what I'm doing behind the camera as far as like editing. That would take me months and months and months. So I think some type of online digital platform for coaching, to make me more accessible to more people at once. And I think that's kind of
mm,
where the content is going. You see it with like Kyle Kazuda and that pickleball school, and you see it with Tanner Tomasi and his brand is kind of they're all based on coaching. Hayden
mm.
Patrick Quinn and Connor Garnett both have these TUI schools and schools now. So you see it more and more pop up. Um, and I know I've from my years of coaching pickleball, like I have a lot to share. So I just haven't shared it as much. And I think that's where the next chapter is after tour.
I love that. Um,
But you
I
do
think
know the
that
tennis
there's.
coaches that look like a leather bag. We all know. There's
Oh,
always one.
yeah. I'm not. Listen, I only chuckled because I know the vision in my brain. I just
Yeah.
didn't want didn't want to directly comment on it.
That's funny.
Oh my god. There's a piece in your chapter here that I read in an interview that you did. I think it was outdoorsports.com. You talked about this chapter of performing on American Idol, which is super cool and unique. But the targeted piece that I want to get into is you said it helped you figure out who you are. And the reason that I wanted to target that is because I think that's a challenge for anybody in the audience that's listening who is driving towards a goal or an entrepreneur or a pickleball player on the court. Like, really trying to figure out who you are, what you want, what your values are. Like, that's a huge struggle in this life.
For
So
sure.
what about that experience with American Idol really helped you figure out who you are, who Zack Taylor is?
Yeah, wow. Great question.
Yeah.
I think Zack Taylor as a little kid was petrified on the inside of being made fun of and not standing out too much.
Mm,
And after Idol and during Idol, I think it clicked to me that it's okay to be exactly who I am. And and they wanted me for who I was, not who I thought I was or who I wanted to be.
mm,
They saw me as me, and I think for whatever reason, A-list celebrities telling you that you're good and you belong on a show like that kind of clicked for me at that young age, where I was moldable and vulnerable and just trying to figure out, am I good enough? And I
mm,
think being on the show and making it that far and was very validating for me continuing to pursue entertainment. And obviously, I've had tons of support from family, friends, choir directors, all of that throughout life. Um, and for whatever reason, that show with that big of a reach and a following and all of that kind of stuff kind of validated it for me in that moment. And I will say, like, that show, auditioning for shows like that, is the scariest thing I have ever experienced in my life. Not even kidding you. First time I had ever been around that many people trying to like do the same thing, and like celebrities like right next to me knowing my name and cameras everywhere. I mean, I still to this day, even though I thought I blacked out in the moment, I can still like visualize what the room looked like where I auditioned like for television. And I
wow.
had never seen that many cameras before, and I was so nervous that it translated a little bit on TV, but in my head it was like that sucked. And then it aired on national TV, and I was like, oh, that was actually pretty good. So me kind of forcing myself to believe I'm not good enough, that being on that show and seeing it in real time in real life and experiencing it validated that for me. And I think that's kind of where my confidence grew. And
Mm.
I thought I was going to get eliminated at every single round, and I kept getting through and through and through. And I was like, oh my God, like, I feel like I could do this, you know? And I think that
Where'd you
just
end up
happens in
finishing?
like,
Was it the final 48 I saw?
yeah, I lost in I made the final, the top 48.
That's a long, that's a deep run with a lot of cameras over that period of time and a lot of people.
it was, I think 7 or 8 auditions from the very beginning because I
Wow.
auditioned on the bus tour. And they
Okay.
had like pulled up like a giant motorhome, and I auditioned in like a line of 1,000 people up to like
Holy
this
shit.
tent. So it was very, very like very quick like easy beginnings, and I kept just making it through, making it through, making it through, and then I think that year there was like 212,000 people that auditioned for the show, and I made the top 48. So it just kind of really changed the trajectory of my life, and that was the moment where I was like, I believe in myself. Like this is exactly like what I wanted to do it at that time. And that confidence has kind of just lingered for the rest of my life, like up until now. Like I've since then I've been a pretty confident person as a young kid, but even though I was lost inside, but I looked like I had it together. And now
Mm.
I know exactly who I am, and I'm not afraid to kind of be exactly that. And I think that show kind of really, for whatever reason, helped me get there.
Do you, at moments, still struggle with confidence today?
Yeah, there's for sure moments where I struggle with confidence. I think social media has a huge play on it because a lot of us, especially the younger generation, compares yourself to all these people on your feed, all these people that look perfect. And yeah, do I sometimes feel less confident as a pale redhead? Of course, when I look at like all these beautiful tan people on my feed all day long, it's like, well, that's great for them. And sometimes I find myself, trying to compare myself or wishing I was different, but no, it doesn't come through as much as it used to.
Mm.
Um, where I see most of it is kind of on the pickleball court,
Mm.
where I sometimes go into matches thinking this person is better than me, and then I get off the court. Maybe I lose, maybe I win, but I was like, they really aren't. Like, why am I putting this person on a pedestal? Why in my head have I accepted defeat before I even stepped on the court? Um, and I know where the root of that comes from. The root of it comes from, I don't train at that level as much as them because I do spend a lot of time coaching, and I'm seeing like a 2.5, 3.0 level ball most of the week. And then I get my high level games in through these local tournaments and practice with pros, but it takes a minute to kind of settle into that professional ball again.
Mm.
So that's kind of where the confidence slips a little bit in pickleball as far as like touring goes, because I was talking to a friend, like this whole week has been like a revelation for me. I'm like, we have to figure out what Zack Taylor is going to do in the next year, um, as far as
I
being
love that,
marketable
man.
and
No, we got you here.
where is coaching going? And I do a pretty good job, competing at the highest level without training. And I'm now at the point where I'm like, well, if I just gave 6 months of my life and stopped coaching for a second, or coached way less and spent all that time on the court actually training, like where could I go?
Mm.
And that's kind of the dilemma I'm kind of dealing with in my head now, is like I have a great life and make a great living as a coach and also a pro player. But the risk of setting all of that aside and training for 6 months and seeing where do the results go from there and where do the sponsorships go from there is what's the scariest part.
What's holding you
And
back?
that's the new risk. I don't know. I think it's like the what if. It's like the what if I fail? What if, I do this for 6 months and I don't get better, and then I lose clients because they haven't seen me in 6 months. It's that kind of thing in my head. But again, like I said earlier in the interview, it's like I'll figure it out, whatever the next step is. And I think I don't, for whatever reason it's taken this long, I think I'm at the point where I'm like, a little bit tired of going to tournaments and just being subpar. Like
Hmm.
being okay, winning, having some great results here and there, but it's not super consistent to where I'm, a name for at every tournament. And that's kind of where I'm like, look, I don't know how much longer I have, so let's make a push and just see over the next 2 years, like how good can I get?
Let me ask you a question.
So
Do you feel like you would regret it if you didn't do it?
so funny. As my older and wiser clients would tell me, you will regret it if you don't try it. So, I have to kind of listen to their advice because they've been through life more than me and they're on the other side of it. And they all say if they could go back, they would do it. So, up until this point, like this is like one of those other like hurdles, right? It's like I did American Idol, I did a show on ABC, I've done a bunch of stuff there, and that was super scary. And it changed the trajectory of my life. And then, you know, picking up the sport during COVID changed the trajectory of my life. And now the next phase of it is like, well, how far can I go? How much juice
Yeah.
can I squeeze out of this lemon? Like, can I be one of those top players? And I think in my back of my head, I can. I just haven't given myself the opportunity to train and to see it. And for whatever reason of leaving the coaching gig, you know, at the Southern California rate that I charge, which is pretty great, uh, it does kind of that is probably one of the reasons why it's holding me back. Just because I'm like, well, what if, I don't really live a
Yeah.
poor lifestyle. I like to go out and do things with friends and explore and vacation and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Is like, all right, it's gonna be now or never, and let's see where it goes.
To relate to you in so many ways and so many of these interviews, the reason I ask you that question is because I ask it to myself often. If I'm
Mm,
in a situation where I am considering that I need to go one way or another, I ultimately ask myself, am I going to regret not doing this? And if I am, it really doesn't matter what any cost it is. Like, I have to go and do it because I know that
yeah,
I will be in that seat at 85, looking
yeah,
back in life and wishing that I did it. And I don't want to be in that seat. I want to look back and say that I
yeah.
at least tried everything I possibly could and gave it
It's
my
so
best
true,
effort.
and there's so many examples, especially players like in the sport that have done that, and they're
Mm.
have surpassed what I thought they could do, and beating me, and I'm like, dang, they really committed to moving. Not that I need to move, but they committed to like pickleball all day, every day, in the gym, recovery, training, physical therapy, all of that, and 3 months later, 4 months later, they look like a different player, and you're like, where the hell was that? So, with my athletic background as of being an athlete since I could walk, like I know I could do it. It's just like you're on the edge of the cliff and you don't want to jump because you don't know how far you're gonna go. And it's that unknown, but then like you do it and then you're like, oh, that wasn't bad. Let's do it again. That's how I've always been. I've always been the chicken at the beginning, and then I do it, somebody convinces me to do it, and then I'm like, wow, that was so fun. Why didn't I do that earlier?
Well, since I now know that you're going to be committing to this for the next 6 months, I am excited
This
to
is
see where
proof.
I'm excited to see where you are on the other side of
Yeah,
that.
this is proof.
Uh, kind what's this alluding to in this conversation we're just having is this whole discussion on like mindset, this mental resilience to keep going even when so many things are holding you back, the discomfort, the fear, uh, even people convincing you otherwise that it's a risk, it's not safe, etc. what what does mental resilience mean to you, like not in such a buzzwordy sense but in your own words, like what does it actually mean to you?
I think, that really means committing to the goal you set for yourself, whether it's you're going to have highs or you're going to have lows,
Mm.
and not letting the lows bring you so far down that you lose sight of what you set out to do in the first place. Um, and I'll be honest, I need to do better at, writing things down and putting it on paper so I don't lose sight of the goal because you kind of start to trail off into something else when you really were getting to one specific place. And look, this journey of being a professional athlete is wild. It has its ups, it has its downs. There's days where I'm like, I'm quitting. That was the worst match I ever played. And then there's days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I played so good. Like, I want to keep doing this. It's like that. It's that kind of up and down roller coaster of a ride that kind of makes it fun, but also makes it challenging. And to be honest, none of us at the pro game know how long we're going to be doing this.
Mm.
Like, we don't know. It could be 5 years, it could be 15 years, it could be done in 6 months when all the tour wars kill each other. I don't know. So I don't think we're here for a long time. We're here for a good time. Uh, and just, you know, not being so hard on yourself. And here's what I tell clients is like, you're not going to see the day-to-day progress necessarily as much because you're going to go out and you're going to have a great day, and then the next week you're going to have a really bad day, and you're going to be like, none of the stuff that you're teaching me is working. Like, I don't understand why I played so bad. And then you kind of remove yourself from the day to day and you look back in like a month perspective or a 3 month
Mm.
timeline, and you're like, look how far you've come in that 3 month span. And even at the very top of the game where I'm playing, it's like I'm still learning new things. I'm still learning, figuring out different strategies and shots that are changing the game. And that's what makes it fun because the game is not one dimensional. This game has so many layers to it, and it's the reason why I still have a job as a coach because there's always something to learn, whether it's somebody that's just starting out or people at the very top of the game. Like, it's ever changing, and that's what makes it fun and challenging at the same time. But I think people are going to have bad days, people are going to have good days, but just don't lose sight of what you want pickleball to be for you.
Mm. I love, I absolutely love it, and I'm sure that anybody listening could resonate with that. And what makes this so great is that you're going to be at PickleCon come August, right? August
Let's go.
7th to the 10th,
Let's
7th to
go.
the 10th, I believe.
Yeah.
So you're going to be meeting all these people face to face, whether they're listening to this now or they're going to be there in person. What do you want them to take away from PickleCon? Like, what is one thing that you want them to walk away with at the end of the day? When they see you, they approach you, they have a conversation with you. What is that one thing?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I can speak a little bit from experience because I did PickleCon last year, and I think it was the first year they did it in Kansas City, and they're doing it again.
Yeah.
And it was like at the infancy stage, I think. Um, what I want them to learn, because a lot of them are probably going to come from other parts of the country, um, to kind of learn pickleball from other pros, or to watch high level pickleball, or even to play the giant tournament that they're hosting.
Mm.
But I think for those types of people, like, one, come in with an open mind. Maybe you know that you have a really great shot, but then some other coach that you're meeting for the first time is giving you a whole nother way to look at things. Um, Make sure that having fun is at the top of your list because, look, a lot of the players that are coming, this isn't their job. This is the most fun part-time job they could ever have. So don't lose sight of it, and just remember why you got in the sport in the first place, because you were having a great time and you were meeting people. I will say from personal experience, I have friends from all over the country now, whether they're players or families that have hosted me in their homes during tournaments, that are now some of my very, very good friends. And I think PickleCon can be a place where you meet people from all over the country and form friendships through the 4 days that they're together, and then go off and travel to their home and play a pickleball tournament. And they come to yours and they play a pickleball tournament. And that's kind of what PickleCon is all about, is like community. And I grew up in Kansas City. I'm a native of the state, and there is no better community in the United States than Kansas City. I have never seen more nice of people, people that
Hot
love
take.
love the city, people that support every sporting team that we have, community art fairs. I mean, you name it. Like, Kansas City and the culture there is one of a kind. And I've traveled everywhere, and I still come back and I'm like so impressed with the city and where it's come. So if you're coming to PickleCon, have fun, learn a bit, come watch some of the top players play, and meet some new friends and try some barbecue. because one of the reasons why I'm going home and why I go home so much is for the barbecue. And that's
Is there
Kansas
a,
City has the
is there,
best.
I completely agree with that. When I was there last year, literally bounced around trying all of the places.
So
There
good.
was there's one place that everybody's listening to and waiting for you to say like, "Hey, you got to go there." What's the one
Oh,
place that they definitely have to go to?
Zach Taylor's hot take for barbecue is Joe's Kansas City barbecue.
Okay, I think
Three
I've definitely
locations.
stopped there.
You get the
Yeah.
Z-Man sandwich and
Okay.
you get the French fries. The Z-Man is smoked brisket, smoked provolone, two crispy onion rings on a bun with barbecue
Hell
sauce.
yeah.
Can't go wrong. I have lived. I grew up there. I visit home probably 6, 7 times a year, and
Okay.
there is no other place that I go. I do not cheat on Joe's. Joe's and I are married. We're together. We're together, me and Joe.
I didn't know what to expect going to Kansas City. And if there's anything that I can promote about it, there was an extreme sense of culture and passion in so much of Kansas City, from sports to food to arts to everything in between. I was very caught off guard about how
Oh, really?
awesome Kansas City was. And I didn't want to say that. I'm a Pats fan. I want nothing to do with the
Right.
Kansas City Chiefs. However, if there's anything that I have to compliment on, I did enjoy Kansas City, the city itself, a lot. So everybody will have a good time there.
Good.
Closing up our conversation, I mean, it has been such an honest and nuanced conversation. And you were just so genuine and vulnerable. And I really appreciate that. And I want to make sure that people can keep following along with your story, what you have going on. You talked about some things in this recent year that you're deciding on. So I want people to be able to also follow you along on that journey. What's the best place for people to really go to find you, whether it's during training or during travel or just in real life or in between? Where can they go to keep along with your story?
Sure. Well, if you want to keep along with my full life, as far as
Journey.
pickleball and everything I do off the court, sometimes you got to shade your eyes. You can follow my Instagram. I'm Zach the Redhead on Instagram.
Okay.
If you're more just involved in the pickleball space, I have Zack Taylor Pickleball on Facebook. And
Awesome.
then if you really want to dig up all my old singing stuff, you can go on YouTube and look at my YouTube channel at Zack Taylor. I think there's I think one of the Power Rangers is also named Zack Taylor. So when you type in Zack Taylor Power Rangers might
Oh my
pop up.
God.
But if you scroll down a little bit, you might be able to see my singing life before pickleball.
For our closing question, we did get into it a little bit, but I'm going to ask you it anyways. And we'll kind of finish on this note. We like to talk about fears as we close to resonate with our entire audience. So the question that we always ask is, what is your greatest fear moving forward?
Greatest fear moving forward is the unknown of where it's going to take me
Okay.
because you don't know. But as history would show, it always takes me to a better place than I was before. So, as my commercial acting coach used to tell me, leap and the net will appear. And that's kind of one of the things I live by.
I love it. Zach, thank you so much for joining us today. I mean,
Thank
I am always appreciative of every guest that is willing to be so genuine and authentic and transparent in these interviews. A lot of the questions that we ask and we talked about today are not always easy to answer, right? A
Right.
lot of that's like vulnerability is tough, discomfort is tough, and you really leaned into that. So I thank you so much today for doing that for us in this conversation, but also for our audience as well. I'm so excited for
Well,
them to meet you in PickleCon. It'll be cool.
thank you so much. I'm very excited too. I'm looking forward to PickleCon. Obviously, you won't be there, but this has been such a fun interview, and I'm very very appreciative of your time. And hopefully, we gave people a laugh and gave people something to think about.